Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Diamond Hands podcast. Today we have the blonde bombshell business mogul herself, Audrey Neff. So she is the chief marketing officer at Aviva Aesthetics, and we're going to be getting into what Aviva is later. She broke into aesthetics at the ripe old age of 22, and she still gets carded, guys. But she built herself into one of the industry's most recognized speakers and thought leaders. She hosts a top 3% podcast, and she basically sits at the intersection of marketing, business strategy, and industry influence. And so we're really going to be talking about today what it actually takes to build authority in the business. And for some of you who might be a little bit younger, how to do that when you're young, what most practice owners get wrong about marketing and retention, and how the business of aesthetics is changing, and what she sees coming down the pike that you might not know yet, but you do need to know. Welcome.
Thank you, Leslie. I feel like you should be a television host, like a news broadcast. Thank you for the very kind intro. It's wonderful to be here. And yes, I do sometimes get carded. The last time I was carded, I was with Leslie in Las Vegas for Gain Train the Trainer. And man, when I ordered that martini and I got carded, it was the best day of my life.
Literally, we were all giving her like the stink side eye, like, what? Excuse me? The jealousy was real. I love it. And guys, those are my regular listeners. Like, don't at me for this background. I don't ever do this, but like, it looks like I'm in jail otherwise. So we're gonna rock with this and just see what happens. But whatever. So Audrey, so you got into medical aesthetics at 22. After you graduated with a management degree or what have you. And if you wanted to just kind of like go back to the beginning a little bit and kind of tell us what that actually looked like, and what did you have to do to be kind of taken seriously in these rooms?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's been to think back on what a wild ride, very fun ride. It's been over the last
Mhm.
11 going on 12 years, I guess now. Yeah, so I was 22, my first job in this industry, and it was an unintentional, accidental land in aesthetics. But initially, it was with a marketing agency, and I was hired as director of marketing. It was a startup, true startup, which I thrive in startup atmospheres. I really like to build stuff. That's something that I thoroughly enjoy. So I was instantly thrown into the world of helping build this company and this agency at a very young age. It was so much fun and a lot of learning, right? Because I'd worked all throughout college and, paying my way through doing different marketing internships and all of these other things, you name it. And then to just be immersed in such a unique industry and having to figure things out for yourself, you learn a lot. And so I'm very grateful for my time of what was my gateway at that time into aesthetics. And during my time at that first agency, the president of the company was the person who initially advocated for hiring me because he saw something in me at that time, even though I was literally 22. Like, I barely brought anything to the table, in my opinion. And he ended up becoming my mentor throughout my entire career. And I still talk to him to this day. We are very close. And I would certainly not be where I am today without his guidance and mentorship. So it's always cool to see how, when paths align and the right people come along, and they can actually completely change the trajectory of your life. So I give a lot of credit to my amazing mentor, Tim Sawyer. Beyond that, then, yeah, eventually we sold to private equity, built the company up, sold to private equity, merged with Patient Now, was there for a very long time. And then about a year ago, I can't believe it's already been a year, joined the team at Aviva Aesthetics, which has been so much fun. It's definitely very aligned with what my passion is in this industry. And yeah, I wouldn't trade any of my career or life experiences for anything in the world, because it always brings you to where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, so many people can relate to that, right? It's just like we like to think that things are done in a silo, but that's not how anything is. It's like every experience that we have builds on each other. And it's like, and you work with practice owners every day. And the stories about how these practice founders got there, it's very, what's the word? Guys, don't at me. Circuitous? What's this?
I know what word you're
How do you
trying
pronounce
to,
that?
but I don't know what it is either. I'm so bad about words. Like, I can't think of them when
It's
I'm trying to
okay.
think.
But it's so cool. And so like with that, and and it's like you really come in and you about marketing and sales, and like so many people think that marketing, sales, and retention are completely different things. And it's like, baby, no. And like, can you talk more about that and how they have to work together and really not as separate functions and practices?
Yeah, it's all one cohesive cycle. You can't be successful at one without the other. And if we think about what builds a sustainable, thriving, successful practice that one day can be a true asset, you need all of those ducks in a row with all of those. So sales, marketing, retention, they all go hand in hand. If one of those things is broken, it directly impacts the other two. So, I think people need to I think a lot of times, and I'm sure you would agree with this, practice owners get super hyper focused on maybe one of them. And the one I see a lot most often is practices getting hyper consumed in simply lead generation, right? Like they're just obsessed with getting more leads, more leads, more leads, instead of actually, going back to, well, how many leads have I gotten? What is my conversion rate? What are my people saying over the phone? What is my consultation process? How do I retain these patients? How am I building out treatment plans? Like all of these other things that really tie everything back to lifetime value, return on investment, and ultimately the profitability and revenue and success of your practice. And so you really need all three of them to be well-oiled engines in order to build that practice. And if we think about things that separate a $1 million practice from a $5 million practice, I mean, a $5 million practice, to get there, you need the right systems, processes, and marketing and sales and all of these things. And so I think it can be overwhelming sometimes in practices. I think everybody gets overwhelmed and stressed in this industry because we're all running essentially small to medium sized businesses, and it's tough. And so something I would also advocate for is to surround yourself with people that are experts in their craft, because you can't be an expert at everything. I think sometimes people try to just hoard everything and try to do it themselves or try to have their team do it. When in reality, if you need to go out and hire a sales consultant, or you need to align yourself with a really great digital marketing agency partner, or you need help with building, or training around the consultation treatment plans, how to implement a successful membership program, then those aren't expenses. If you need to go out and help and bring someone in from the industry to help you do those things, those are investments. And I think a lot of times people view these things as an expense. And yes, technically, are they an expense on your P&L? Yeah. But it's an investment in, I'm going to surround myself or hire somebody that may not be an actual full-time employee in my practice, to help come in and help me do these things the right way. And then you can continue to grow. And so I think a lot of times practices just try to, like, even the front desk person. Okay, so Sally, the front desk person, now you're in charge of posting on social media. You're in charge of QuickBooks. You're in charge of answering the phone. It's like, no, no, no. Like, you need to make sure everyone has very, distinct and dedicated job descriptions and roles. And then you don't get anywhere phenomenal in business or life without surrounding yourselves with people that are specific experts in that specific craft. And so I think a lot of us try to do everything, or we want to do everything ourselves. And you really need to start to delegate or hire people that are really great at those things if they are things that you struggle with.
Yeah, and I think that's so important what you just talked about. And like, that too, it's like I do want to ask you about even retention of not just patients, but how does retention of team members actually help a practice increase, marketing, or not in marketing, but increase their sales, their
Yeah.
revenue
Yeah.
overall? Because people sometimes, we always talk about CX, right? You talk about the
Mhm.
patient experience, client journey. But I don't think enough people are talking about EX, and I came from the world of, finance, employee benefits for 500 plus groups, you know
Yep.
what I'm saying? And it's like, you got to do that stuff, because if you don't take care of the employee, they're not going to take care of the public, and it's going to be a revolving door. So can you tell me more
Exactly.
about what you've seen in
Yeah.
practices?
Yeah. I mean, your team is everything. You don't get to any extraordinary place in business without your team helping you get there. You don't achieve success alone. And just like you said, I mean, your team has a direct correlation to patient experiences and what they feel like when they're in your business. And so I think, and it is unfortunate, and I don't want to put blame on anyone, because I think most of the people came from the hospital or a medical background, not from a experience of managing people and owning a small business. And so I think that there's a big learning curve for people, and that's okay, right? What we are all constantly learning if we're running and operating a small business, but we need to understand that, it's such a people driven industry. And obviously, one of those people components is patience, but the other people component is your team. One thing I would add is I ask this question a lot is very few to this day, very few practices simply even have like a vision, a mission statement, and core values. And so like those are things that should be fundamentally ingrained into your business. You should hire off of them. You should build your culture off of them. You should fire if people are no longer aligned on those core values. And while they seem kind of silly, like, oh, just writing something down on a piece of paper, putting something on my website, they're actually guiding principles that help align yourself with the right people. And so from even a retention standpoint, I will add, I think a lot of people also need to realize that not everybody is driven by the same things as like a
Yes.
human being. And so, for instance, there have been lots of studies done around even like providers in aesthetics and what do they care about that will help them stay with a business
Mhm.
or stay with that practice. And I think like number 5 on the list is their compensation. So people think everybody is fully driven by money. That's not always the case. Some people are driven by opportunities to move up in the company or continual learning opportunities in the industry to advance their clinical craft and get CMEs and help get them better at what they're doing. Or it is recognition and things like that. And so I think we need to just be cognizant of how each of our team members operates and how we should be managing them, because depending on how someone is, you manage them differently. Even at Aviva, we really like predictive index. And so we do that, which, kind of basically shows you how as a team member, how do you operate and like, for instance, I'm a maverick. So I have a little bit of a stronger personality, but I like taking risks. I like implementing change. I like doing those things. And we have other people that are not like that. But when you know how people operate, you know how you should better communicate with them. You know how you should manage them better. And then obviously the number one thing with retention is going to be culture. Like, and people talk
Yeah.
about culture, but what is culture? Like, culture is a feeling of camaraderie where everybody comes to work. They get excited to come to work. They feel like they're a part of something bigger and they feel like they're working with other people that they genuinely care about. And they believe that those people care about them as well. And if
Mhm.
culture is strong in an organization, it's very unlikely that those people will leave, right? If you have competitive pay and you build a phenomenal culture, culture is at the forefront of everything. Obviously, if you don't build
Mhm.
that culture or you don't remove toxic team members as well, which also can impact your culture. A lot of people keep injectors that perhaps maybe a toxic employee, but they're generating a lot of revenue. And I understand it can be like tugging at your heart if you or your brain, because you're thinking, oh my gosh, like if I let this person go, I'm going to lose $1 million of revenue. But what you're really losing at the end of the day is, yes, may you temporarily lose some revenue, is every single day that a toxic team member continues to stay on your team, that's affecting the culture for the rest of your employees. Or if you treat
Mhm.
people differently, right? If Sally comes to work late every day with her coffee and blames it on traffic, and you never give her, you never reprimand her that she needs to be on time, and people consistently see that, that sets the stage too. So I
Mhm.
think it's about camaraderie. It's about people need to feel like they're a part of something bigger beyond whatever their specific job is, right? They don't want to just feel like they're just coming in, doing their
Mhm.
job, and leaving. It needs to feel like they're a part of something. So team meetings, whether you do level 10 meetings, whether you do like, there's all of these different things that people can implement that over time build a really great culture. And then of course you need to align on what your core values are and then hire off of those as well. So I know that was kind of a long-winded question
Yeah.
or answer, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it was great because this is the nitty gritty, and I think it's very important for people to understand this stuff because, and I love what you said there because that's a key point. It's like what you accept and what you tolerate also is culture. Like you said, many practice founders, of no fault of their own, many times because many times people bring that family atmosphere into their practices. It's like, honey, baby, this is not a family. Like, a good friend of ours, Ben Hernandez. I love how he says we're a professional sports team, right? And like on a professional sports team, everyone is accountable for their role, how they need to operate. And it's like, if you're not operating right in that role, you got to go. And I think
Yeah.
so many people, since they're empaths, perhaps feel so bad about okay, I need to let this person go because maybe they've been with the team for 10 years, or maybe they are a top revenue producer or what have you. So they destroy the whole entire tree instead of getting rid of a bad apple.
Mhm. Even on that topic, and I'm glad you brought that up, like, if someone is doing something that is not, like, something that you don't tolerate, at least give them the chance to change it, like, have a private conversation with them and let them know, and then maybe they're put on, a secretive performance plan. Nobody else needs to know about it. Like, I wouldn't do something in front of your team about it, but have a private conversation, give them a chance to
Mhm.
correct their behavior in a certain amount of time if they don't, because people can change if they're told. Because sometimes people are so just stuck in their ways that they don't know that they should actually be doing something unless you tell them. So communication is key. I think sometimes people don't communicate enough with their team.
And then, so the next thing I want to talk about to you about, because, and then I love that point that you made about basically you have to communicate with your team members. There was something that I was reading. I was reading Charlie Munger's book, Charlie's Almanac, or have you? And because he was the big investor, he's dead now, R.I.P. Who was next to Warren Buffett. He's like the brains behind everything. But he was talking about like there was a company that he invested in, and they would not be allowed to communicate unless they said who, what it's for, and why. And he was like, and psychologically speaking, there's a statistical increase in compliance when you say why. So it's not just like, okay, you need to be on time, or Sally, you need to be on time and come into the practice at 10 o'clock. That's not enough.
Yep.
Why, when patients come in and you're not there and they're waiting for you to come in and then you're coming and walking in with a Dunkin' Donuts at 10:10, it does not set a good
Mhm.
example for the rest of the team. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So it's like so interesting how putting that why in there, even if it doesn't make any sense, a person's like, oh, maybe I should comply.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah. And then also, what do you think with patient retention? What do you think the one thing practices keep on under investing in that has the highest return?
You know what I would say to that? I would think, and this is me even looking across some of our locations too. I think something that
Mhm.
memberships is one conversation, but I don't want to go down that road today because I can talk about that for a lot. But I think
Mhm.
something that maybe people underinvest in or don't fully prioritize, and this does boil down a little bit to sales training too, is just making the most out of the
Mhm.
time that you have with a patient. So ultimately, I think this goes
Mhm.
into two avenues. So if you're spending an hour with a patient, right? Let's say they're coming in for Sculptra or something, and
Mhm.
they have an hour appointment. What are or a laser treatment? Let's do laser. Let's make it even easier. Let's do a laser treatment, whatever it may be. One, what are because the first avenue I would go down is how can we enhance this person's treatment and give them better clinical results beyond just the base laser treatment that we're going to do. So whether that is some type
Mhm.
of topical, whether it's PDRN, whether it's, there's a million different things that we can put on top, regardless of controversies out there. But whether it's PDRN, whether it's PDGF, whether it's exosomes, whatever it is, something that enhances recovery and clinical results, but also at the same time increases that revenue per appointment and your revenue per hour. And I think a lot of people just need to be, and this comes down to training too, is how do you actually get someone to say yes to that? So it's about how you word stuff and how you educate it. Like if you just say, do you want to add this on today? Well, you just ask, do you want to add any of these on today? I'm going to say it's $500 extra. No. But if you say, by the way, in order to
Mhm.
actually give you a much more enhanced result and speed up your recovery time, we actually can add on X, Y, and Z, and perhaps you even show some photos of like, this is actually how much, like I did it on myself the other week, and this is how much my skin sped up in terms of recovery. I actually did, maybe I A/B tested the laser treatment a couple months apart with different topicals, which I've done that even. And so if you did,
Mhm.
once again, going back to even the why, like, why should you add this on? And then it becomes, oh, well,
Yeah.
of course I want to recover faster and I want a better clinical result, instead of you just simply, do you want to add this on? It's $500. Like, well, no, I don't want to spend another $500. So it goes back to the why and the
Mhm.
value of what this brings. So one is, I think, being more mindful of what can we do in that time that we have with the patient to increase revenue. And there's so many different layers,
Mhm.
whether it's retail products, whether it is X, Y, and Z. There are so many different modalities and things that we have in the industry to enhance results and treatments. And while people
Mhm.
get uncomfortable with, I don't want to be pushy or I don't want to sell, like think of it as I'd be doing a disservice if I don't educate these patients on other things that they can add on to
Mhm.
give them a better clinical result. If someone gets a better clinical result, they're going to be happier. It's going to be a better experience, better before and
Yeah.
after photos. They'll tell more people about it. Like it's all this trickle down effect. So that would be the one thing I would say from a retention standpoint is just what can you do more of to enhance the patient experience from a clinical standpoint that ultimately also has a direct correlation to the
Mhm.
revenue. And then the other thing I would say is using that time to continue building the relationship with the patient. So once again,
Okay.
keep patient notes in your EMR, even if you don't remember Susan and that she got a new puppy the last time she was here. Make sure you put patient notes in. You look at your EMR for 2 seconds before you walk in the treatment room to greet Susan. Even if you don't remember her, Susan, oh my gosh, how is the puppy doing? Like, great to see you. Just these little things. And then it gets very emotional for them and that patient because they're like, oh my gosh, this person remembers me. They care about me. I love this provider. So just
Mhm.
going back to like that human connection that us as consumers and people just crave and asking them questions about their life,
Mhm.
sitting down for a little bit and talking to them. So I think it's two ways is just how can we be more productive with the time that we already have? Because you can choose to be unproductive with that time. Just
Mhm.
do the treatment, barely talk to them. Okay, goodbye. Here's your recovery kit. And that's it. Or you can spend that
Mhm.
time enhancing the treatment, which you're driving up your revenue and building the relationship with them. And all if you do that with every single patient that walks through your door, you can have like a lower quantity of patients than another med spa, but have a much higher quality practice at the end of the day.
Exactly. And with that, it's like, and I would challenge every practice to also practice inversion, right? The process of inversion is just like, okay, what are the things that would cause my practice to fail? What would cause this relationship with this patient to fail? And to your point, it's like, don't put any soft notes in the chart. Like
Yeah.
if you want to fail, don't put any soft notes in the chart. Don't add anything to their services. Don't greet them and ask them for water, coffee, or tea when they come in. Make them wait 15 to 30 minutes to
Yeah.
come in for their appointment. And so, like, when you do a process of inversion with whatever you're doing, try to just go left of that.
Yeah.
Like,
I love it.
avoid all that.
Good exercise too. Like it's actually very good to go the other way around because it's so easy to think of
Mhm.
ways to like destroy something or make something not success. Like it's easy for us to think of those. It's almost easier for us to think of those things than the other things sometimes. So I think that's a good exercise to do.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, like, even for y'all who are single, when you're dating, you know what I mean? Like, inversion, use the exercise and go backwards. How could this go wrong? Calling him every 5 seconds,
Yeah.
not giving him space, getting super drunk on the first date. Like, just think about those things, guys, ladies. And so, with that, I do want to ask you, it's like, so private equity, as we know, is one of the most talked about and least understood topics in medical aesthetics right now. I was actually on LinkedIn and there was a doctor complaining. He was like, we're at a time where PE knows more about my practice than me. He was like, this sucks. We need to change it. He's like, rules are being made, things are being done, and I'm not even part of the conversation. So let's talk about that for a little bit.
Mhm.
What do most practice owners, in your experience, fundamentally misunderstand about private equity and also misunderstand even further than that about platforms like Aviva? So if we can kind of go into those two things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is a very relevant topic in today's current landscape of gosh, I can't believe we're mid-year 2026 at this point. And yeah, we all know like private equity, it's so interesting too because 5 years ago nobody talked about private equity in this industry. It was rarely talked about, there wasn't much private equity activity in aesthetics. There wasn't other verticals like derm and dental and things like that. And then all of a sudden, maybe 3 years ago, it really kind of 3, 4 years ago, it really kind of just almost feels like it came out of nowhere. And I want to first add that I think private equity, certainly it has different connotations. Some people have a very negative connotation with it. Some people perhaps a positive if they've had, because there's plenty of people that have positive experiences, but there's also a lot of people that have had horrible experiences. And I do want to add, because I want to put a positive spin on this. If we have as much private equity interest in aesthetics as we do today, that means that we're in a really healthy and growing industry. So I want to, remind everyone of that. Like, if we have all of these private equity firms and platforms coming into aesthetics to invest in practices and things like that, that means that we're in a very attractive industry. So I want to first say that, because this naturally happens in any industry that has been growing for as long and as fast as medical aesthetics. It's just the natural cycle of business and industries. One, just wanted to add on that. Two, in terms of private equity, I think that there is a lot of confusion around how private equity works. And so if I were to break it down into just simple terms, because I think a lot of people because there's so much out there, there's so many different platforms. A lot of them are saying different things. There's different lingo and language or slogans that they align themselves with. And I think sometimes it can get confusing and overwhelming. So one, I would say, if people are in a stage of business where you are considering private equity, make sure that you take your time, ask the right questions, spend enough time talking to those firms, talk to practices that are a part of the platform. I mean, I could go on and on about questions to ask, but I don't want to go down that today. But if we think of private equity, so private equity, for the most part, there's probably 20 plus platforms in aesthetics, if not more. I feel like every month I see another one, like someone connects with me on LinkedIn and they're the CEO of some other platform that just launched with no practices, which is good, right? There's going to be a lot of different options for people out there and who they want to potentially sell to, if that is something that they are thinking about doing in 2026 or in the near future. But what private equity is doing is they're essentially coming in to acquire, right? So majority of the platforms are going to acquire a majority stake in someone's business, typically going to be 60 to 100%, depending the model. But let's call it 70 to 90% is pretty average. So they will buy a majority stake of your business at a relatively mid-single digit multiple on your EBITDA, so essentially your operating profit. So 5x is pretty standard now. Multiples used to be a lot higher a couple of years ago when interest rates were lower. I don't know if we'll go back to that. If interest rates drop again, that is a possibility that multiples could climb up a little bit. But as it sits today, you can't really get, I would say, even and there was some reports that just came out of average multiples of 2025. And if we look at average multiples, 3 to 6 times is typical for practices that are doing like sub $5 million. And then when you're doing maybe 5 to 20 million, you're looking at maybe from the bottom tier 5 to 8x. So from an average, let's just call it 5, because the majority of businesses in the States are going to fall into that area of revenue. So you sell a majority stake of your business. That is the valuation of your practice, 5 times your profit. If your profit was $500K, 5 times $500K, your business is worth $2.5 million. You keep 70% of that in cash, let's call it, roll over 30%. You essentially become an employee of the platform, but you do have some equity stake in the larger platform as a whole. And then private equity will optimize your business, right? Because now when you're a part of a large platform with a sophisticated management services organization wrapping around it, and you have purchasing power and economies of scale and all of these other things like back office support, private equity will continue to optimize your business. So it's a great avenue for someone that really wants to get all of that off their plate today. They want cash today. Phenomenal opportunity. There's plenty of wonderful platforms out there with great leadership as well, I will add. And then private equity will, roll up, let's call it 50, 60, 70 practices, and then they'll resell the platform at a platform multiple, which let's say it's 15, 16x. So that discrepancy of I bought businesses for 5 times and now I'm selling them for 15 times after optimizing their profitability and their EBITDA. That is what essentially private equity keeps the majority of. And the med spa owners will still get a check after that second bite at the apple and that second transaction, but it's going to be minimal compared to what private equity investors and that fund is getting back as a return. So that's essentially how private equity works. So with Aviva, our whole approach was, well, what about people that don't want to sell today? Like, what if someone doesn't want to sell today, but they want support They want to continue growing. And it's the cost of goods is tough, especially with injectables, especially for 1, 2, 3 location practices. I mean, you're not getting the pricing of somebody that has 20 locations, 30 locations, 40 locations. It's totally different. It's totally different. So with
Yeah.
Aviva, the whole concept was, what if we can build a founder-friendly platform? So something that is actually owned by founders and med spa owners instead of being owned by private equity. So the whole concept of Aviva is there's no cash consideration. You join Aviva, but you still own 100% of your practice. And then you receive the benefits as if you did sell. So you receive our back office support, our accounting, our purchasing power, economies of scale, you name it, right? And so you continue building your business with someone helping you, a sophisticated management team. And then when we do go to mid-market private equity, and let's call it 2030, and bring on an investor partner, just like all the other private equity platforms are doing, that multiple that is typically reserved for private equity, so let's say it's 15 times, 16 times, 90% of that multiple gets paid to every single med spa owner on their EBITDA at that time, which is, when you think about it, that really is life-changing money for anyone's business. And then you still have rollover equity. We continue to build, we continue to grow. You get a second bite at the apple at a much higher value than you would the traditional route. And so it's fun. It's something that's built for founders and owners and operators that want to just continue building their business, but they don't want to give up ownership today. So it's very fun, and I'm loving every minute of it.
That's awesome. And like right now, you guys are associated with what, 20 practices now? Is it 20?
We have technically, I would say 18 if I count one that is in kind of final due diligence. So 18, which is crazy. We've been operating 18
I
months.
love that. It's crazy. Average one a month. You guys are killing it.
Yeah.
No, it's great. And I mean, you're all over the place, and it makes sense for, because it's like, people have different opinions about things, but it's like, everyone has what is best for them, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, so if you're looking to do this, obviously speak with your legal counsel, your CPA, and make sure it is right for you, because, as you had said, and which I love what you said, it's like one solution doesn't fit all, right? And it's like you just have to figure out where you are in your journey and what you want a partner to look like, essentially, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, everyone has it, like, whether you want to exit today, partner today, or continue running your business. Like everyone is in a different stage of business, and there is an opportunity or an avenue for everyone out there, regardless of what you believe or regardless of where you are in your stage of business. So there's a lot of options out there today. And I think that's a really exciting time. People can really figure out what's best for them and their families and their future and their business.
Exactly. What is a conversation, happening inside the industry right now that you think the outside world is not hearing yet, or maybe they haven't caught on as a whole in the industry yet?
If I were to, here's maybe what I would say. I might, because now I'm thinking of something now that you asked that question. This might not answer that in the way you asked it, but I think it's something, it's just initially what popped into my mind is, I think as an industry, I'm a little upset at how much people have been going after each other on social media platforms. And I think it's I feel like there's always some type of massive controversy, or people are tearing down other providers, or whatever it may be. And I think it's making our industry, from like, we're all in the industry, so we see it. And sure, we like people that make you critical think more. And of course, these are great things, but we have to also remember that we're in front of an entire population of consumers. And so when consumers see people tearing down providers, going after X, Y, and Z, I think it from the outside consumer, like if we were to go out of the industry and put all of this stuff in front of a consumer's point of view and they're consuming this, I feel like it almost makes our industry kind of perception go down, like just in like a negative way. And so I think we should always be professional and respectful of our colleagues. I think that there's a lot of things that would make a phenomenal debate behind, not on a social media platform in the public, maybe at an educational conference or a clinical conference and things like that. And so while I love people that bring up things, and I think critical thinking is amazing, and I love that we have all of this dialogue in this industry and different perspectives, and I think all of this is great, but I think sometimes it gets taken a little bit too far. And I think it just has a very negative, it can negatively impact a consumer's perception of the industry. And so I hope, and it's not, it's just, we all see it because we're all on social media all the time. But that's something I will say.
I mean, I have to agree with that. I mean, I've been in aesthetics since 2019, and I've seen it. I think many practitioners have lost the plot. It's just like, and I encourage everyone. I'm like, please stop following all these other practitioners in your town or your state. Focus on following your ideal patient if you're going to follow anybody. Have a burner account for following other providers or something if you want to do that. But it's just like focus on following your ideal patient, focus on giving them the best experience. And I agree with you 100%. Like, bring those conversations to conferences, to forums where change can actually happen, to your lobbying on the state level. I know some of my clients are part of state level lobbying groups or what have you, to private forums. And that's where it's important to talk about that. But when you're, like you said, I agree with you 100%. I have really nothing to add. We can't. So even if I have a disagreement, for example, with a person who works similarly I'm not going to say it online. I might say something in a private forum, or I may say something to them that's different than just having nice disagreement. But like, it's not worth it. It's not worth your reputation. It's not worth the industry's reputation, and it's not worth the patients that you will lose when they say, "Wow, she's unprofessional."
Yeah, I totally agree with that too. Be professional. Like, yes, we should all be ourselves and be authentic and all these great things on social media and show who we are as a human being. But I do agree with you, like, or attacking somebody and stuff like that. Like, if your patient sees that, no offense, the majority of people probably going to get turned off by that. So yeah, I think professionalism should still always be at the forefront.
Yes, and at least classy people will get turned off. If you want the ratchets, continue on, baby girl or boy, whoever's listening. But just like, and then the last question I want to ask you, with your work, you're such a force in this industry, and it's just like, I respect you so much. And I love to talk about legacy and where our work is going to go next and what's going to be left behind. What do you want your body of work in your career to represent? Not just your highlights, but, the actual impact that your work has made on the industry when you're looking back.
No one's ever asked me that before. And it all goes back to one thing. And I'm just someone that what fuels my fire at the end of the day is truly just helping people. Like, that's just what I love to do. And that's what I have done my entire career in any way, shape, or form, whether that's through a podcast episode of someone I brought on that people learn so much from, whether that is speaking, whether that is my work, whatever it is. I think 50 years from now, if I look back and I believe that I helped as many people and practices as I could doing, even if it was something really tiny, I'd be happy. And I also joke about, I always tell people, like, you'll be dragging my dead body out of this industry, because you will. Like, I won't leave. Like, someone could give me a check for $10 million cash today and say, if I give you this, you have to leave aesthetics and never talk to anybody in the industry again. Cut all ties. I would say, heck no. Like, I would be immensely depressed, because this industry is everything to me. Like, I love it so much. And I feel so grateful and blessed every single morning when I wake up to be a part of such an incredible, empowering industry. And so I would say, yeah, in terms of legacy, I would hope people were just like, she really liked to help people, and I'd be happy. So it's quite simple.
I love that. But many times, a lot of the best things in life are that simple, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be. Well, Audrey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And guys, if you want to find out more about Aviva Aesthetics, as usual, everything is in the show notes. So www.avivaesthetics.com if you want to join their platform, or if you have questions. And until next time, I'm Leslie Tracey, your host. All right. Bye, guys.
Want more clarity like this? Join the Branded Practice newsletter community. I write about strategy, systems, and brand leadership straight to your inbox. Go to diamondhandsmedia.com to sign up. And if this episode hit, Share it with someone still building without a brand. This is the Diamond Hands Podcast. Thanks for listening. Now go lead.